Hi, and welcome to Overtime Live, sponsored by F9 Analytics. You're here at DisruptCRE, NYC, and we're here at the Overtime panel with the Meet the Disruptors, Innovators Driving Change. I'm sitting here with my left, Duke Long, owner, broker, the Duke Long Agency, Doug Marinaro, co-founder, president, CEO, LiquidSpace, Nick Romito, founder and CEO of VTS, Richard Sarkis, co-founder and CEO of Reonomy, and Brandon Weber, founder and CEO of Hightower. Hi, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. Richard, let's talk about and go over to the user experience. How is all of this technology? How is this changing the user experience? From your users, for the brokers,
Yeah, I think that's actually a huge point. Is that we've all built companies that are very technologically heavy and sophisticated on the back end, and a lot of what we do is around the data collection, data cleansing. These guys with their leasing platforms, and there's a lot of real technological sophistication there. But I think part of the trick is, frankly, to shield some of that and a lot of that from the end user, so that you actually deliver it in a very simple, elegant, intuitive user experience and design. And there are not a lot of companies in CRE tech that have cracked that. Not a lot of companies, period. I mean, Apple really comes to mind as the one that's figured out how to put something that's more powerful than my first laptop in the iPhone, right, and deliver it in a way that my 3-year-old can use it. So I think that being relentlessly focused on UX, UI, data visualization, and having it so simple and intuitive that brokers, investors, lenders can use it as part of their natural workflow is huge.
Doug, LiquidSpace does a fantastic example of a job of that. With his point, can you expand on that and talk about the user experience and how important that is when the people are using the technology?
Absolutely, user experience is hypercritical. If you take a look at what we're trying to do, we're trying to make purchasing your next office or getting your next office as easy as picking out a pair of shoes on Zappos. And and technology like 3D visualization is a piece of it, but it really comes down to understanding that user persona and making sure you can have that entire end-to-end experience be transformational for that individual. So when they step in to go through and whether they're trying to book a meeting space or they're trying to book a team space for their office for 3 months, you want that entire process to be incredibly simple and automated and easy.
Right. Nick, you want to follow up with that? Oh, Richard, let's...
I was just going to say, the fact that you even use the word persona, and we do a lot of work around personas, is actually remarkable. I mean, I'm sure you guys do as well. We really spend a lot of time understanding that persona to for whom we're building the product, and that's something special when you're able to combine the technology with that understanding of the persona.
And that's like very granular. It's an asset manager is different from a portfolio manager, is different from a senior leasing broker, is different from an administrative assistant. It's like you're developing 4 different products, right? Essentially, 4 different nuanced versions of your product to focus on those users.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, this might be an obvious question, but I mean, it really, do we see the velocity going faster and people adopting this because it's that much easier?
I mean, it's insane. We have, I think today, 5,700 users. Most of those are asset managers and brokers, but it doesn't stop with those guys. I mean, you've got the CFO of that REIT every single quarter before his earning call, looking on his phone to see the data, right? How can I seem really smart or look really smart to the street? So, it affects the guys at the bottom, but it also affects the guys at the top. So the adoption is there just because this stuff's so easy to use, right? I mean, literally, it's like it almost just feels natural to them day one. But 2, I think what we're able to do with the information and put it to work for them in a way that actually makes sense. This stuff's being built by people who understand the industry.
Right. That's important.
Who just
hugely
say,
important.
This is a need for an industry. Most of us have done this. We've done deals. We know what's important. So it just screams that the minute they see it, and that helps that adoption curve just spike.
Absolutely. Duke, you have a very interesting perspective because you talk to all of these guys. You know them, you have relationships, people call you about different tech, so talk about what you're excited about. You can talk about what's going on with them. What are you excited about? What gets you excited?
Well, and Brandon brought up some of the 3D stuff. I really think the 3D stuff is probably, as Brandon mentioned, kind of the next platform that's really interesting because of the data stuff. I love what Nick and Brandon are doing also because they're kind of getting involved in the workflow part of what goes on with the brokers and the asset managers and the data information, the stuff with the co-working and taking space that's not being used and utilizing that space. I mean, there are just so many amazing things. And just sitting here right here, there's just some amazing stuff going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's actually go down what's next? Right? We've talked about everything. We're mobile. We see Apple Watches coming out, wearables. What's next, Doug?
You know, it really goes to the user experience. What's next is that your real estate is going to go through and track with you as you need it, when you need it. And it's going to keep track of who you're working with. And based upon who you're working with and where you are and what you need, the right spaces are going to pop up and be noticeable to you.
Nick? I think what's next is going to be really interesting. I think there are like over 200 companies you guys are probably tracking now. Right?
We're at about 200 companies. Yeah, and it's funny because when we did Boston in October, and there were probably more, right? It has to do with us probably not doing a good job, but we found about 50 to 75. So you can see how fast it's growing.
I think in a perfect world, everybody exists in the next 3 years. It's impossible. So I think what's next is going to be, is there consolidation? Do companies start to work together closely to build bigger platforms? I'm honestly just pretty curious to see what's next. I mean, I think we're all going to continue to build great technology and get adoption and hopefully grow great businesses, but I think what's next is potentially a consolidation of a couple different things, and we'll see.
Richard?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, macro picture, there's going to be some consolidation. There's going to be some companies that are no longer there or are rolled up into others. But at a more micro level, picking up the user experience thread, I think we're going to get even better at understanding those personas, not just from the time you show up at work to the time you leave, but literally from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Our apps, our products are going to integrate so seamlessly into your life, not just your work life. And I think once you do that, it starts to be even more valuable.
Yeah, so I think one really interesting point is, so Florida and Hightower was an example of something that I think is going to start happening a lot, which is the old ecosystem of technology, what I call the first wave, were siloed technology solutions like Yardi and MRI and Argus and CoStar. None of them talk to each other, like terribly. They're just like giant walled gardens. And we're moving into a world of an ecosystem, right? So where LiquidSpace and Hightower and Reonomy, if you want to use those three things to create value for your business, there should be a lot of connectivity. And I mean, sort of view the space and a lot of the other guys. So that's going to be really, really cool, because that's just like when Apple shipped the iPhone, where the iPhone got really cool was the App Store. Way like combinatorial effects, like way more cool when the App Store was created. And that's going to happen in commercial real estate too.
Right, yeah. So talk about the connectivity and the Internet of Things. Anybody who wants to jump out, if you've built an API for your platform, are you planning on it?
Yeah.
Have you done it? How's it working?
We probably all have them.
Maybe
Yeah.
all of you
We're
have.
all built
definitely.
on top of API.
Everyone already has an API?
Yeah.
The question is just how public do you make the API?
Sure.
We're all built on top of API layers, and then the question is, what do we expose to whom? Yeah.
What do you sell, et
Totally.
cetera.
Yeah, can we talk about, anybody want to talk about what your plans are, who you're integrating with, to the
Nick
point
and I are probably going to start integrating first. Kidding. That's a joke. Probably not.
Yeah, so we just launched the LiquidSpace API, and I completely agree with what Brandon says. I think that, but I disagree with your point, Nick, about consolidation, because I think actually we are at the beginning of innovation. I think there's going to be an explosion of new kinds of businesses serving this expanded opportunity, and I think the APIs that we have all built are going to be part of the building blocks of yet more innovation that's going to go through and occur in that sense.
Well, I respect your point. I disagree. I think the centralization of all of what we do that's the epitome of why we're building these businesses, right? I mean, if I had to log into 14 different systems to do the same thing, I wouldn't do it. So I think you're right in a sense where innovation is going to keep progressing, obviously, but I think there are a lot of companies doing what I would call features, right? Things that I think at the end of the day make a lot more sense as a part of a bigger platform. And that's what I mean when I say that, consolidation. So I think in a perfect world, everybody exists in 5 years and every idea becomes a profitable business. Just it doesn't.
To that end,
doesn't happen.
I think that's where APIs are actually an enabler. As Brandon said, all our companies are built on top of APIs. I mean, that's just internally how they're built. That makes integration between Hightower and Florida a lot easier.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still challenges, but you wouldn't be able to do it if we weren't built on top of APIs. And then there's the public-facing and revenue stream API, where a lot of our clients ask us to complement access to the platform with selling them the API data and all that kind of stuff. But that's really, frankly, where
the API or just access to the data.
Access to the data via API. But that's where we've actually seen that a lot of the big, banks, brokerage firms, even though we offer it, they don't necessarily have the technological sophistication to access the data that way. So, we've built it because we had to. That's just how our platform is built. But I think it's going to be more as an enabler for some of this collaboration across the firms versus as something in the short term that's going to be monetized.
And there's going to be legacy products that prohibit us from opening up our APIs. Like we have an API that one can connect to your accounting system to pull your property level data down. We have another API which will syndicate your active listing. So whenever you update something in VTS, it's going to push that out to a 42 floors or to another place you guys are going to get access to potential leads. But you've got people like CoStar who will never open up to any of us. Where the amount of value they could get from working with us would blow your mind, but it's just not it's not their DNA, right? So, which I think is telling about what the future holds. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think for a marketplace, we end up with APIs into the locations, so like Marriott's and so forth, so we can go through and showcase their real estate. But the other ways that APIs do is they actually tie together other kinds of user experiences. So one of the APIs we're building is an API into corporate America, which allows now people when we're looking at their fixed real estate footprint that their individuals own, now to go ahead and traverse directly into a marketplace, to go and experience it no matter where they are, and then feed all that data into these guys' systems.
Right. It's all very exciting. So let's conclude with this. We'll go down the line. Brandon, we'll start with you. What's next for Hightower?
Tell
Thematically,
us the pipeline.
I know, exactly. Nick, cover your ears. What's next for Hightower? I'll just say thematically, it's growth. I mean, we've got a tiger by the tail right now, and it's kind of hang on for the ride. And so we're growing kind of on all fronts. We're growing on our platform metrics. Square footage over time is accelerating. We're growing. Headcount growth is insane. I mean, we hired 5 people in the last 7 days. We've got another 4 or 5 that I think we're going to make offers to. So it's kind of we're dealing with all the logistics of that, the logistics of trying to put people in space. I know, Nick, you guys recently moved not too long ago. It's just a giant pain in the butt, but it's fun. So. That's really kind of what's on my radar is how do we grow, but how do we continue to maintain the fact that I think we've got pretty world-class people, and those are 2 competing objectives: grow really fast, but keep the bar insanely high.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Richard.
Yeah, I mean, growth's going to be a common theme across all these companies. Obviously, I think for us, growth is not only going to be the people, but also geographic expansion, market growth. So we're going into LA next quarter, which is right around the corner, then San Francisco, Chicago, DC, top 10 markets covered by the end of next year. So for us, growth is definitely going to be, that market expansion as well.
Yeah, same for us. And we moved 8 months ago. We were 18 people this time last year. We're 63 now.
Wow.
So, and I mean, the shitty part is that we've got to move again. So I'm literally about to start that process.
Yeah,
it's terrible, but it comes with the territory, right? I mean, it's something you have to manage, and but it is what it is. So growth for sure.
Doug?
We've built a user base of about 100,000 people just on the basis of hourly and minute-by-minute use, and what we're just introducing now is monthly and longer-term bookings, and being able to go through and allow you to go ahead and purchase your own office space with a credit card and maintain all your bookings.
That's
so
great.
We think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's going to be really helpful and useful for a lot of people. Duke?
Well, one thing that I want to say, first of all these guys are awesome, and I know they're building great companies, and people have their opinions about what the market is or is not. I still think we're just at the start, and these guys are growing a whole new market. You guys are growing a whole new market, and I think that's amazing, and that's wonderful. And also, for putting it all together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You've been great. This has been the Disruptors, Innovators Driving Change, and Overtime Live, sponsored by F9 Analytics. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, F9.